let's jump into it. Let's talk about the Seattle Mariners. And this week it came out early in the week that Ben Gamel had strained an oblique. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, if not longer. And the move in response to Ben Gamel going down was that the Mariners went out and signed a 44-year-old Ichiro Suzuki, number 51, will be back in the outfield for the Seattle Mariners. There you go. There's the chant. What do you guys think? See, Ichiro, he's back. It's old, but he's back.
I love the move.
Why? Build on that.
Yeah, I will. You got him at a cheap price. Base salary $750,000 with $2 million possible in incentives. And in 134 games last year, Ichiro batted .255. So that is right there in the likes of Guillermo Heredia, Mitch Haniger, and Ben Gamel, who had a stellar rookie season. He's just going to provide depth. As I had mentioned, played 134 games. That's a pretty good chunk of games for a 43-year-old. And he works on his craft. He perfects his craft. And I fully expect him to be a key contributor when he's in the lineup.
It's been said that Ichiro will be in the lineup 4 to 5 times a week as the season begins. And a lot of people talking about that. Is that too much? Is that not enough? Seth, what do you think about the move first and how much or how less Ichiro should be playing, should not be playing? What's the deal with Ichiro?
Well, I'm a little biased because Ichiro has always been my favorite Seattle Mariner since I was just a little guy. But I like the move. You needed another outfielder. Why not bring back Ichiro? He needs to end his career as a Seattle Mariner anyway. And he's a true professional. He handles his stuff. He works hard. He stays in shape. And you have to if you're going to play as a 44-year-old. So yeah, I love it.
Exactly. Very adamant was Ichiro about playing until he's 50.
Yes.
I don't know if any Major League Baseball teams will take a risk on that. I mean, signing him at 44 was even a little questionable, but I'm with you guys. I like it. I think if anything, it keeps players like Braden Bishop down in the minor leagues to continue to develop. I think over the years we've seen so many Mariners players come up to the big league club way before they're ready. I mean, Mike Zunino, James Paxton, Dustin Ackley. I mean, we could go on and on and on about players
Taylor
we should just now be hearing about, but instead they've been regulars on the scene for 4 or 5 years, and it plugs that up, if not just for 1 year, and gives those people more time to develop. Like you said, DJ, it's a super cheap move, and it's good for the fans. I mean, everyone's thrilled to see Ichiro back, and I think it's cool.
Yeah, you talked about last season how DePoto, kind of towards the end of the year, made a couple moves just to stay relevant. You mentioned, I think at the end of last year, and I think this is one of those moves, in my opinion, and probably your opinion, it's a better relevant move because it's going to put people in the stands. I mean, when Ichiro came to his press conference, I heard there were 50 plus Japanese media members just there for the press conference because they wanted to see Ichiro, because Ichiro was really the first big Japanese name to come over and play in the major leagues. So it's a great relevancy move, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is a relevancy move, but it's also a relevancy move that may make more sense from a baseball standpoint than most relevancy moves do, if that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense, and it's good for what the Mariners are this year, like we talked about. So, yeah, Ichiro.
My main concern with this deal is what's going to happen if the other 4 Mariner outfielders get healthy. Are you going to be able to keep 5 outfielders on the roster? You're going to have Ichiro, you've got Gordon, Haniger, we've got Gamel, Heredia. Somebody is probably going to have to go. Do you make a trade? Can you even send any of those guys down to the minor leagues, or do you just have to cut somebody?
I think Heredia has a couple options.
Heredia is probably going to be an option year for Heredia anyway, so he'll be making the trip up and down I-5 from Seattle to Tacoma probably quite regularly, if I had to guess.
Yeah, but I mean, it just goes back to depth, and you talked about Braden Bishop. He's having a great spring camp, but you're going to have that, I want to say, freedom to send Heredia up and down, and odds are one of them is going to get hurt again this year, so you'll be able to bring Heredia right back up when one of those guys goes down, whether it's Gamel again, his oblique, or Haniger and some freak thing like a finger or something, odds are one of them's going to get hurt again.
I think it's like a nice luxury to have, like you said, DJ, for Heredia to go back down. I think it suits Heredia better at this stage of his career to play every day. He could be on the big league club, but he's going to be watching 5 games a week.
Yeah.
So you could send him down to Tacoma, and he'll be playing more. The problem people have right now with the Ichiro deal is, one, he's too old, which, okay, I understand that. It's probably the only 44-year-old free agent signing that I will ever be excited for. Yeah. I hope. I don't know what other move is going to happen in my lifetime, but this is the only one that'll probably happen for. And the other problem that they had was that Ichiro's going to play too often. Or Ichiro, and that's not going to be the case. It is to start until Gamel gets back, but Ichiro will be that 4th outfielder that hits 9th.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like I said, he's no slump at the plate still. I mean, he batted .255 last season, like I mentioned before. So, I mean, that's not bad. And Ichiro's a lot like, if there's any 44-year-old that could do it, it is Ichiro. He's a lot like Tom Brady in that the offseason, there was an article written about him, and they asked a player who had played with him, like, how many days does he take off in the offseason? He said maybe 1 or 2, and Ichiro's right back at it because his diet is so good, his workout plan is so good. He is a perfectionist of his craft. And so if there's any 44-year-old that could do it, it's Ichiro.
Any other thoughts on Ichiro, Seth? You said he's your favorite Mariner of ever.
Yeah. I mean, when I first got into the Mariners, I was probably only like 4 or 5, as early as I can really remember. And Ichiro had really just come over to the MLB maybe a year or 2 before that. And so ever since then, for a number of years, he was really the only talented player on the Mariners roster. And you could rely on him. He would get his 200-plus hits every year. He'd get you 30 or more stolen bases every year. You know he was going to be on base once or twice every game. And obviously he's not going to do that anymore, but he'll still work professional at-bats. He'll work the count. So I think he can, even if he underperforms, he can still give you something.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting. Ichiro back as a Seattle Mariner. Any other thoughts y'all have
on the Mariners?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really like what I've seen this spring, especially out of Marco Gonzalez. I feel like he's had a couple of solid outings. And I think he's going to win that 4th starting position in the rotation over Erasmo Ramirez, because we still haven't heard anything from him on his shoulder. Some other guys that I think have had pretty good outings is Mike Leake. He's been very solid, and we talked about it before. That pitching staff is going to be probably the biggest question mark for this team going forward. Paxton got bumped around a little bit today. He had 2 runs hit off of him. So I like what I've seen so far.
Seth, your thoughts on the early part of spring training for the Mariners?
Well, you touched on the pitching a lot, DJ, but just looking at the offense, most of your regulars for the regular season are playing really well this spring. And of course, they're facing some AAA, maybe even some AA talent in that mix. But Segura, Gordon, Cano, all those guys are taking care of business. The only one who's really not thus far has been Nelson Cruz, who up until today didn't have any hits this spring. But I think, DJ, you said during the break that he hit a home run in today's game.
Yep. Solo home run.
Maybe a good sign there that he's going to start to get things going. So if nothing else, the lineup appears to be in full swing.
Oh, full swing. I like that.
It will be an interesting team to watch.
What are your thoughts, Christian?
Oh, my thoughts.
Have you had much time to watch any games? Or
no,
I've
hardly watched anything. I think I watched last night because they were on TV and just kind of listened into everything. But no, it'll be interesting, though. They're definitely one of those fringe teams that, if they get off to a good start, they'll be in the hunt for a wild card spot. I think that I've made my feelings very clear that they're nowhere near the Astros, and they will not be playing for a division crown. That's fair. Not going to happen.
100%.
They're in a weird spot because if they're out of it, they're in a position to where come July, you could start having conversations about, well, does Kyle Seager need to be a part of this team anymore? Does Edwin Diaz need to be a part of this team anymore? They could start moving pieces. They're at that point. So whether they're in it or they're not, they're going to be incredibly interesting throughout the summer months.
It'll be. I think it'll be a lot like the Seahawks are right now if they're not doing as well in July, because, like you said, they'll have to question a lot of the pieces that they have right now and maybe look to start going somewhere elsewhere.
Yeah, it should be a fun year. Any other closing thoughts on the Mariners before we head break?
If they do end up having to go the seller route, I hope they wait a year or two. Not because I think that they can contend now, but I don't want to have to suffer through the Seahawks and the Mariners rebuilding at the same time.
We've taken enough as Seattle sports fans.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Be interesting to see how things play out.